Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here today. Pleasure to be back in Nassau. Pleasure to be in Hempstead. And first, Marie Brennan, what a beautiful, not statement, but you really explained this issue very, very well in very human terms. Let's give her a big round of applause. To a man who's doing a really outstanding job as a public official, who's doing a great job running the county, my friend Ed Mangano. Let's give him a round of applause. To Jim Malatras, who is our wonderkind up in Albany, who's been doing great work on the tax cap. Let's give him a round of applause. And to District Attorney Madeline Singas, and to Fran Murray, and to Kate Murray, pleasure to be with all of you. Thank you very much for taking the time. First, what a beautiful venue this is. It is so fancy, it is so nice, the bunting, the chandeliers. I feel like somebody should get married or something. Don't you see? Anyone want to get married? We'll perform a quick ceremony. Thank you. And the message today is very simple and it's very clear, and Marie expressed it quite well. And you know it better in Nassau than just about anyone in the country. We have a lot of problems that we have to deal with, a lot of issues that we have to deal with as a state. We have environmental issues on Long Island. We have health issues, high predominance of breast cancer on Long Island. We have transportation issues. We have train issues, Long Island Railroad issues. We have a lot of issues. The single most important and pressing issue that in many ways aggravates all the other issues, in my opinion, taxes. Taxes. And the taxes have been getting higher and higher and higher, and it is unsustainable now. And it's an interesting story, and that's why Marie put it in the right context, you know, because the tax situation didn't develop overnight. It developed over 30 years. And New York winds up the highest tax state in the United States of America. Nassau County winds up the highest tax county in the United States of America. Sometimes Westchester, sometimes Nassau. But it's not just high taxes in New York. It's high taxes compared to everywhere else in the country. How did it happen? Well, on the state level, there was something I call a hangover New York arrogance. You know, New York was New York. And for many years, New Yorkers really believed that this was the only place that anyone could locate, any business could locate, and everybody wanted to come to New York. So New York had an attitude, well, we can keep raising taxes, and where are people going to go? They're going to stay here, they'll complain, but they're going to stay. And for many years, that was true. Businesses wanted to be here. This was the center of commerce. People wanted to live here. Everybody wanted to be in New York. And that was true. But what we found out is if you keep increasing taxes and taxes and taxes, there becomes a breaking point. And what we found out is if you look at a map, you will see there are actually other states on that map. And if you look a little bit to the west of New York, you will see squares and rectangles and other shapes. Those are called other states. And we found out that you could actually move from New York and move to one of those other shapes, and that they are technically habitable. They are not New York, and you will miss New York, and you will come and visit New York, but you can live there. And we have seen an exodus of people moving from New York, down south, Florida, Carolinas, Texas, where the taxes are lower. Because it reaches a point where you say, enough is enough. I just can't afford it. Businesses were the first ones to leave because businesses didn't have the family roots that Marie talked about. They were making a decision just on the economics. We have other states calling our businesses every day, inviting them to come down, putting economic packages together to get them to come down. So the state was suffering. Nassau had a similar story. Marie mentioned Brooklyn. How many people here, how many families originally moved out from Brooklyn? Yeah. The normal trajectory was a lot of people were living in the city, and the city had a lot of assets, but the city had density, and people said, I want to move out. I want to get a single-family house. I remember my uncle, when he first moved out from Brooklyn to Nassau, he kept saying, I was a young fella, my house is unattached. And I didn't know what he meant, unattached. Well, his house wasn't married, his house is single, what is it? His house was unattached. That's all he said about the house, was it was unattached. And it's not that I got older that I learned that houses could be attached to other houses. I grew up in Queens, but he was so proud to move to Nassau and have an unattached house. And the taxes in Nassau were higher, always, than New York City. But that was okay, because you moved out to Nassau, beautiful school system, beautiful parks, beautiful roads. You got a lot of benefit for your taxes. And people knew that moving out 30 years ago. But what happened in Nassau, the taxes kept going up and up and up and up. And there were more and more government levels. Now there's a fire district, and then there's a library district, and then there's a lighting district, and then there's a special district, and then there's another district to count all the other districts just to make sure. And you look at your tax bill now, and you will have 10, 12 taxing districts. And Nassau winds up the highest tax county in the United States. And people will pay $10, $11, $19, $20, $25,000 in taxes. And people start saying, my taxes are higher than my mortgage. I can't do this anymore. So taxes are the number one problem. 2011, I am running for governor of the state of New York. And they had talked for a long time in Albany about passing a property tax cap. Sometimes 4%, sometimes 3%, but they wanted to pass a tax cap. What happened? They never passed it. Why? Because they never passed anything in Albany. They talked a lot, but they never passed anything. And the way it was working in Albany was the Republicans supported the tax cap. Because the Republicans supported it means the Democrats had to oppose it, right? So the Democrats were against it, the Republicans were in favor of it. I'm running for governor. I call up County Executive Ed Mangano, who happens not to be of the same persuasion of me. Let me just say that, persuasion. Not sexual persuasion like that, but not the same persuasion. Actually, he is a Mets fan and I'm a Yankees fan. That's the difference. No, he's a Republican and I'm a Democrat. And I'm running for governor and I want to set a different pattern than what's going on in Albany. So I called up County Executive Mangano. I said, I'd like to have a chat with you. I want to talk to you about taxes. And he said, boy, you're right. Taxes are the problem. I said, how about this? I said, how about you and I stand up together and we both support the tax cap? He said, can we do that? Can a Republican stand with a Democrat? I said, yeah, I think so. I don't think we can stand too close, but I think we can stand together. And we said, you know, this would be a really shocking situation if we could stand up on the tax cap together. And I loved it because I wanted to introduce a whole different level of bipartisanship anyway to Albany. So we stood up in 2011. We said that we were going to pass the tax cap, and we both supported it. And this was a much bigger deal for the county executive than it was for me. I wasn't governor. I was running to be governor, and he had to live with the tax cap. And the tax cap means spending can't go up more than 2%. And this is a real fiscal discipline. This is saying no more than 1,200 calories a day. You can do it, you can survive, but it's a pain in the neck every day. And the county executive said, I will go first. And Nassau, being as big as it is and powerful as it is, and high tax was a powerful statement. We then passed the tax cap. I was a Democrat, I became governor. I got the Democrats to support it, the Republicans support it. We passed the tax cap. We said we're going to lead by example in the state of New York. And the state adopted the 2% cap first. We lived with the 2% cap. We cut all the state taxes down to historically low levels. The income tax in the state of New York is as low as it was in 1950, believe it or not. Because when you spend less money, you can tax less. And that's exactly what we did. And the state spending came down to 2%. And then we passed the property tax cap 2%. And there was an uproar, an uproar. People would come up to me from local government all across the board and say, we can't do this. We can't possibly live within 2%. And I would say, why not? They said, well, everybody wants more money. I said, yeah, I know. And when they say, I want more money, you say, no. That's what you have to say. Well, we can't do that. And it's hard for politicians. Why? Because politicians like to say yes. Politicians like to make people happy. And politicians want to make people happy, and happy people then vote for you, and then you stay a politician, and that's nice. And it's hard to say no. And it's hard for a local politician to sit there and the one chief comes from a department and says, you know, I need new trucks, I need more personnel, I can protect more people, we could do more here, we could do more here, I need more, more, more. And as a politician, in politics, it's different than business. It's easier to say yes because you have a great piggy bank. You know what the piggy bank is? The taxpayers. And you can say yes, and the budget gets bigger, and then you go to the taxpayers and say, no problem, you just pay more in taxes. We just raised the taxes. And that's what happened for years. That's why the taxes were going up 6%, 7%, 8%, 10% some years. Every year, when nothing was going up at that rate. Your income wasn't going up at that rate. Your bank account wasn't going up at that rate. The house wasn't appreciating at that rate. 2-3 times the cost of inflation, but the taxes kept going up. And how were people supposed to pay? How is a senior citizen on a fixed income supposed to pay for the increasing taxes? There was no answer, but it was the easy political answer. We set a 2% tax cap as a discipline. It was very hard initially, and ultimately, about 98% of the local governments actually live with a 2% tax cap. And the state lives with a 2% tax cap. The state lives with a 2% tax cap. And the services from the state have actually gotten better than ever before. The local governments, the county is living with a 2% tax cap. The county is performing and providing services better than ever before. Why? Because all it meant was you have to provide some fiscal discipline. And you have to find economies of scale. It meant you have to do the same thing that every business does. You have to do the same thing that every family does. And you have to sit around the kitchen table and find out how to fit a budget and where to save money. And it said to the local governments, you know what, you're going to have to get a little creative, and not everybody can have everything. You know, we have dozens and dozens of government in Nassau. Find out ways to work together. Why does every government have to have one of everything? Everybody has to have a garage to service the trucks. Why does everybody have to have a garage to service the trucks? Maybe somebody can share garages among the towns. I'm not asking you to share a bed. Share a garage. You can do it. And that discipline had to come to government. This was somebody's money. This was taxpayers' money. And it was valuable. That 2% cap is changing the trajectory of the state. First of all, people are staying. Why? Because they think finally there's some control. You know, the Marie Brennans of the world. Maybe we have to move. No, maybe you don't have to move now, because there's actually control on the increase. And actually there's some sanity. And it's not getting worse, it's actually getting better. And while we're at 2%, you know what's happening in the other states? They're going up higher. They're going up more and more and more. And we're basically flat at the 2%. So every year that goes by, it's not that New York is the expensive state. They're catching up very, very fast. We do this for a few more years, they're going to pass us. And then I'm going to put up a big sign that says, "Come to New York, the low-tax state." The tax cap expires this year. I wanted to be here today with my friend Ed Mangano, who started the whole thing with me in the first place. We need the legislature to renew the cap this year. If they don't renew it, it's off, and you'll see those taxes go through the roof. There's 2 more weeks of the legislative session. I need you to call your senator and your assemblyman and say, renew that tax cap. It is the single best thing that this state has done in a long, long time. And we need it renewed. Thank you, and God bless you.